Hello, I'm Robert Paris, President of Myelin Leadership International. We all have hidden messages in our brain that often are negative and result in self-defeating behaviors in adulthood. Thankfully, through research based on neuroscience, we've discovered ways of taking control of our brains and taking control over those hidden messages so that we control our brains don't control us. So I want to talk about a process we developed at Myelin Leadership International called Renew. The R in Renew is basically, that's our start. Reap the benefits of learning about your brain. And that's a very big part of this process because we found when people understand how their brain functions, they understand their own behavior as well as the behavior of others much better. So it's critically important that you understand how your brain functions. Number one, your brain is all about survival. And based on that, we really start to understand a lot about human behavior as well as our own behavior. Number two, our brain is highly emotional in nature. And yet when we take a look at our organizations, they discourage the expression of emotions, which is actually impossible to do, and that isn't in our best interest as well. In addition, there's a concept called the neuroplasticity of the brain, which means we can change our brain, we can learn and rewire our brain to overcome self-defeating thoughts, so we have much more positive thoughts that lead to more productive behaviors in adulthood. The second stage in Renew is empower yourself by getting in touch with your hidden story. And this is very difficult to do because it goes against our evolutionary biology. It takes great strength to get in touch with our hidden story because there's a lot of emotional pain. And yet it's really critically important that you get in touch with the traumatic events in your life so that you understand what exactly is in your brain that is resulting in these self-defeating behaviors. So, as a big part of our process, we recommend that you sit down. You divide your life into three segments: childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. And you gather the strength, because there will be some emotional pain, but it will pay off if you overcome that tendency to avoid emotional pain. So sit down and start to write. Think about trauma that you experienced in childhood and then adolescence and then adulthood. Don't be afraid. Write 20 minutes every day. Capture the traumatic thoughts, and then at the end of the session, rip up your paper and do the same thing the day after. The N in Renew is note links between your hidden story and undesirable behaviors. The fact is, once we understand our brain, there are hidden messages in our brain that drive our behavior, and yet we're unaware of that. And that to me is a very scary process, that I have thoughts in my brain that are directing me and resulting in maladaptive behaviors. So it's critically important that once you get in touch with that hidden story, you then take a look at your life and where aren't you happy? What's holding you back? What are self-defeating behaviors? And then to understand that that's not really you. Perhaps it's your childhood and the trauma in your childhood and the resulting negative hidden messages. So it's critically important that you make that link and you're strong enough to be able to do so. Then the E in Renew, the second E, is empower others by telling your story. And this takes a lot of courage. The reality is, once again, it goes against our evolutionary biology to tell our authentic story to others because we feel we'll be vulnerable, that people will take advantage of us. And that could result in emotional and social pain. And by understanding the brain, we realize the brain is set up to avoid experience any pain whatsoever. So it takes courage to be vulnerable. And yet that's the state of the art of leadership in the 21st century. So I really encourage you, once again, you make the links between your hidden story and between negative behaviors, and you understand your story, get out and tell your story. It's a sign of leadership, it's a sign of strength, and you have the great capability of being able to inspire others. And finally, the last phase of Renew is win by, being true and living your authentic story. Live your story. And perhaps that's how we define success. At the end of the day, success is not about financial gains or anything like that. It's about living or understanding your life's destiny and doing everything you can to be in touch with that and to live your values, to live your stories, and to be authentic to yourself. If you do that, it's liberating. So that's it. The process is called Renew. And I'm Robert Paris of Myelin Leadership International. I hope that you benefit by this. I've had other videos previously in this series that I urge you to get in touch with, as well as another video that will be coming up in another week or two. So be safe and be healthy.